So, will we get where the promise of this situation was originally by the president? Will we get to what he said was going to be the best deal ever? Former Mideast peace negotiator Aaron David Miller, former White House National Security Council member in Donald Trump's first term, Mr. Richard Goldberg, and former Iranian political prisoner and now a professor at New York University, Mr. Kian Tajbakhsh. It's good to have all three of you. I will start with the newest member of the panel, which is Mr. Richard Goldberg. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Why do you see reason for optimism tonight?
Well, the reason for optimism has always been the fact that the blockade is working more than we give it credit for. The regime is hemorrhaging every single day, and the bombs aren't dropping. And so because the bombs aren't dropping, while they are hemorrhaging cash and facing a dire situation in the financial and economic sectors, the people are out. And I think that more than the blockade, more than bombs, more than anything, the thing the regime fears the most is the people. And so we've seen some reports of the internet coming back on. It's obviously still filtered. It's not fully back on. But if you're able to translate that blockade, that pressure, and get actual results of the Strait being reopened on our terms and enriched uranium being removed from Iran in a path that they cannot have a nuclear weapon in the future, I mean, that is a big success on top of the successes we've already had from Epic Fury and last year and Midnight Hammer.
Well, a lot of ifs in there, but that is the argument for optimism. Kian, what is the balancing argument about whether the regime is stressed or what works on them?
Well, I would love it to be true what your previous guest said. I support that outcome. But I and many other people, including many people inside Iran, just don't see that. I mean, what we're seeing is that it looks less like Trump imposing his terms than negotiating his way out of an impasse of his own making. My view is that this was it was not a poorly conceived war of choice. Rather, I see it as an extremely poorly prepared and poorly executed war of necessity. So Trump is now has been forced to relinquish all his main war aims. I mean, the blockade, it looks like if this deal goes through, they're going to ease sanctions, they're going to ease the blockade, and we're not going to get anywhere with this. And I'll just tell you, many Iranian opponents of the regime from inside that I've been able to speak to, the bitterness is profound, Chris. I'm hearing a bit of joke among Iranian opponents of the regime. It's a kind of snarky joke. They say, when Trump told the American people that help is on its way, we did not realize he was talking to the regime because now they're despondent that the American military operation has been so ineffective, even those who would support it. So I don't really see at the moment any incentives on the side of the Iranian regime to give concessions when they hold this card, and they pushed President Trump basically to a deal which relinquishes all his three major war aims, which was enrichment, missiles, and proxies.
But look, you got to give it the benefit of the process also, right? This is a first step, doesn't mean it's the last step. And I remember one of the first things that I had to remember from ADM many years ago was when you were saying these deals can be like the weather. If you don't like it, just wait, it'll change. Especially when you're dealing with terrorists, ADM. And that's the part of this I don't understand. Like, what are the expectations of making a deal with a group of people that you know are sworn to your death?
I mean, it is fascinating, Chris. And I think Kian broke the code here. You've got a situation where the United States is not negotiating with Switzerland. It's negotiating with a brutal, repressive, authoritarian regime that murders, imprisons, and tortures, kills its own citizens in the thousands. So for an American president I did Arab-Israeli negotiations, 6 secretaries of state. In those, an American president could find the balance point between what the Arabs wanted on one hand, what the Israelis wanted on the other, and you can come to a deal. Here, there is no balance point. An American president is fundamentally constrained by the politics and the nature of the regime he's dealing with to cut the kind of deal that, I don't know, might endure. I don't see this that way, though, Chris. I think basically what we've bought is a ticket. We bought a ticket to a negotiation, which is going to last 30, 60, 90, however many days you want to pick, because the gaps between this regime and the administration are as wide as the Grand Canyon on almost every single issue. And the one issue in which I would argue to you, there's not going to be a deal that satisfies any American president on the nuclear issue. We're never going to sleep at night. The Iranian regime will want a weapon now, a latent nuclear weapon state. Right. The one issue that troubles me the most, and the one that will be the visible manifestation of who won this war and who didn't, is what happens to the Straits. And the president could find himself in the anomalous position of literally paying the Iranians with unfrozen assets for opening something that was already opened on February 27th. I don't see how, Chris, even this administration spins that as a success. The Straits are not going to be open the way normal humans, you and I remember MOU, the inestimable Chris Cuomo, MOU SE. The Straits are not going to be open the way they were on February 27, because the Iranians now have a new nuke. It's called weaponizing geography.
Right. I get it. Richard Goldberg, I want to give you the last word. That was an inside joke, by the way, when we first heard the term MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. I'm such a beef-witted cobloaf that I thought when he said MOU, he was going to then say SE, like when they used to spell Mickey Mouse on the show. You see why I need you guys as guests? You see, Goldberg, this is why I need you. So give me the last word on where there is a win that Keon and Aaron are struggling to see right now.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, my preference would be Project Freedom. The fact that was ended prematurely after 36 hours, if that was because the Saudis pulled the rug, wouldn't allow us airspace, I mean, that's a big disappointment. That was obviously checkmate if you keep the blockade and reopen the strait on your own terms. That they're done at that point in Tehran. At this point, I agree that if we're actually paying an extortion racket for opening the strait, that can become a permanent extortion racket. You can't allow that to happen. I think the president would recognize that. I hope he would reject that framework. At the same time, though, remember, the Strait of Hormuz is not sort of the permanent nuclear weapon that you make it out to be. The world will get away from the Strait of Hormuz very quickly. The Emiratis have already announced they're going to build another pipeline at 2 million barrels per day, avoiding the strait. The Saudis, I assume, will build another east-west pipeline, maybe a northern one going through Iraq. The days of the Strait of Hormuz being this sort of choke point are going to be over within 1, 2, 3 years. Now, that's not a good news story today, but that's a reality. And so if you are able to continue some sort of strangulation of the regime economically, give up as little as possible, get the Strait of Hormuz open, get the world that needs it with oil, especially in Europe and Asia for stocks that are running low, and then still able to work in other ways to support the Iranian people, keep focused on denying them pathways to nuclear weapons, build on the gains you've made in Epic Fury. This is not a loss. This is still a long-term strategic victory and a path forward for the U.S.
Richard, we all hope you're right, because it doesn't matter to me who gets the headline of the win. Is there actually moving the needle for Keon's family in Iran and in America and our families right here? All right, gentlemen, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Let's hope the change in this story does not make it worse for us. Mr. Goldberg, welcome, Richard, and thank you for being here. Keon, as always,
thank you.
You got a beautiful tan and a beautiful mind. Aaron, thank you so much, always,
Thanks, Chris.
For the pellucid perspective.